How is everybody doing today? My name is Master Zero and welcome back to another reaction video. This time we're reacting to the most powerful type of world building by Curious Archives. Alright, so I know I try to jump around different channels and stuff during any type of month. I almost said just classified it as Science Month, but any chance I get I try to jump around to channels, you know? But I can't help it, man. The last Curious Archive video that I reacted to, it blew me away, man. Just the visuals and how he just pulled all the stuff that I did know and didn't know together to form the most coherent just amazing video essay I have, dare I might say, I have ever witnessed, you know? It was just really awesome stuff. But I'm kind of curious about this one because I mean, obviously I kind of hope it's in the same vein as the last one, but then again I kind of hope I get to see some new stuff. And the thumbnail itself, not the title, but the thumbnail said moldy world building, so that kind of makes me think it's gonna talk about the world after an apocalypse or something, you know, Fallout or Adventure Time and stuff like that, you know, typically the world's still continuing after some major event happens. So I'm very fascinated to see what's to come. So without any further ado, here's the most powerful type of world building.
Now, rot.
Unless you're actually talking about a moldy world. Hey, Elden Ring, I should have said that in my intro. I'm sorry?
For days I had tried to chart the game's festering ruins and putrid
oh, that's beautiful.
Gods,
hopefully we get some tie-ins from the god dying
world
video.
Captivated me like only a few ever had.
Hey.
It's seldom been claimed
Hey, Stray!
that moldiness
I actually know a lot of
is the
these.
key to great world building. But after analyzing tons
Star Wars.
of sci-fi and fantasy settings and
Walking Dead,
sacrificing
obviously.
some inspired bread, I genuinely believe that mildew is one of the most powerful devices in fiction.
He's actually talking about mold. Okay.
Rot is a story.
That is very true, man.
Stay with you.
Oh, this is beautiful already.
You can hear
Okay.
it if you listen
Bloodborne?
closely. The squelch of a newborn god thing
Yeah, I hate
slipping
it.
from the
Thing
womb
is
of
an
the old
understatement.
world, the hush of a billion dreams becoming
Oh man,
fertilizer
I have to glance
for the
down
age
at
to
what it is
come.
now.
It is the sound
So
of
fascinating, dude.
digestive rebirth, an idea central to creating
have a way
a
with
working
words, but sometimes they're
definition
gross.
of moldy world building. I'm using the term digestion
Hi,
rather than
buddy.
decay because, well, we've all seen decaying worlds.
That's fair. That's what I
Post-apocalyptic
thought this was going to
landscapes
talk
left
about.
barren from the fires of Armageddon. But a
Okay, so it is
digestive
different
world
topic.
is
I love
actively
that.
Feeding, consuming its own foundations to fuel
Yeah.
what grows atop it. Nowhere is this concept more apparent than in the games of Elden Ring developer From Software.
That's very
whose
true, man.
title
That
set
game
in a
is
realm where
beautiful.
rot devours
Just
both
the art,
nations and gods
world.
alike. And yet these lands are rank with life, the gastric humus giving rise to 1,000 new entities. As fungi
Alright,
must
man.
chew dead matter to bloom, moldy worlds exist in a state
I mean,
of
technically it is a
constant
living
gnawing,
thing, right?
grinding ruins of the past upon
It's
the
just a little
rotting
different.
molars to create a future. Moldy world building does not always
Questionable,
require
Ruin.
literal mold, however. Across the regions of Elden Ring, while the land of Caelid is choked
Shit,
with
I was about to
fungus,
say, there's a
the
whole
Altus
section of
Plateau
nothing
and
but
Limgrave
mushrooms and stuff.
burrowed under coverings of vegetation. Yet said
Uh-huh.
areas are unmistakably moldy in how they fester upon the bones of ages past, the very landscape dependent on ruins. As a consequence, the world itself feels
just see
like
where
an
you go, man. No
archaeological
map,
dig,
no
a
nothing.
geology of lore that
Hey, the
legions
punk guy.
of fans
Oh, the
have
broken
loyally
punk guy.
tried to excavate. The devotion that Elden Ring's environmental storytelling
like that
has
doesn't really
inspired
tell you that
speaks
much.
to the larger power of a mildewed setting, because on a fundamental
That's
level,
Studio Ghibli again,
each
man.
ruin is a story. The
Last of
most
Us.
basic unit of plot is a change in
Trying to guess it
circumstance,
before it
and
comes.
what is overgrown wreckage but proof of a world's change? There's a
Very
reason why
true.
derelicts are so common in narrative-focused games. A simple coating of leaves can utterly transform what a
that's
building
beautiful.
means to an audience, suggesting a vast timeline
Just
of
let your brain
unspoken
work, man.
eras.
Don't tell them
Rot
anything.
is, ironically, among the most effective ways to make a setting come alive.
That's true, man.
Decomposition offers a rich and living history without
that was Limbo
even
for
a
a second.
single line of exposition. In the game Skyrim, vast
Hey, let's
weathered
go.
structures and putrefying catacombs
see, bones
indicate an
everywhere.
extensive backstory.
Guess that's a type of
regardless whether
decay.
the player is motivated to read through the in-game lore. The scars of history are similarly
Just drop me in with
unmistakable
no
the
knowledge,
kingdoms
man.
of George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice
Oh.
and Fire. where one doesn't
I didn't
need
think
to know
Game of
that
Thrones
the
or
series
George
is
R. R.
set
Martin would be
after
here.
the collapse of various empires to smell the stench of necrosis.
Oh.
As is the case with Skyrim, in all corners of Martin's world, the monuments of civilizations past cast shadows over lesser present dwellings.
God, Skyrim's
The
another
current
game I
nations
love,
but
man.
Rats cannibalizing the towering corpse of their forebears. One could even call
Again,
such
your
settings
narration, man.
post-apocalyptic. And
Just the
indeed,
words you
much of
choose.
multi-world
Hey!
building overlaps with the
Again,
concept.
I really need to play that game.
Planet-wide
I'm gonna download it when my
doomsday is
Wi-Fi
not
comes back.
required for rot to take root.
Or restarts, I should say.
Time alone can swallow a civilization, erasing names and events, leaving nothing but enigmatic remnants. For beyond acting as a
I low-key like the
story,
machine
a
stuff,
ruin is
though.
a question.
This is
Why
more like
is the wall in Skyrim
nature.
outside of Whiterun broken? Why was the ice
That's
wall
a
in
great
the north
question.
of Martin's Westeros truly built at all? It's not entirely
Because the ice
clear,
giants,
and
or
though
whatever they were
various
called in there.
potential
Going back to
explanations
Marvel.
exist, the quiet ambiguity that an eroded world leaves you with only adds to the setting's intrigue.
That's very true, man. Makes your
The
brain
most effective
ponder.
rotting settings layer mystery
Just
upon
think
mystery,
without thinking.
piling multiple deposits of ruin atop each other. In Elden Ring, the corpse of a dragon festers upon the
Yeah.
remains of an even older church. Elsewhere, the awe-inspiring walking mausoleums are stone Goliaths both overrun with moss and tree growth and burdened with a second
It's so
layer of
pretty,
crumbling
though,
tombs
in like a
upon their
decaying
backs.
kind of
Every
way.
new stratum of
I love
wreckage
this
adds
style,
subtle
man.
depth to a world.
Like, just
Part
in
of
general,
why
like the
series
apocalyptic,
like The
hey,
Last
Avatar,
Airbender
let's
feels so
go!
fully realized
I didn't even
is
think
because
about
its
that, but they had a
environments
lot of
featured
stuff,
not
especially
just
the Air
debris
Nomad
from the more
place.
recent Air Nomad genocide, but remnants from countless
Oh, I
other
love it.
fallen civilizations. The ruins so commonplace that many go unnamed and unremarked upon.
Oh.
In every region of the land, the wounds of long forgotten
Ever seen one of
eras
his
lie in
videos,
the
man? I get
background,
goosebumps.
A through line that both underlines the show's themes of loss and rebirth,
And then Korra,
makes
it's
the
even
setting
further
feel
in the future.
authentically grounded in a robust mythos. It's a method of world building one could
And that
compare to,
storytelling is like,
those cross-sections
dare I
of
say, the
Earth
best
in
cartoon
cartoons.
narration.
You know, the ones with like the bones and stuff,
Yeah.
or even a sandwich.
Let's
where
go.
Each new layer
Oh, the
builds to
layer.
greater
Okay, that's where
whole.
the sandwich is
The
coming in.
world-building of the show
Hey, Adventure Time, let's go!
Especially sandwich coated.
That used to be my
with the
favorite
vestiges
cartoon,
of
man, like,
Newton
hands
Hawks all
down.
mushed
And
together.
Fiona and Cake,
when I
apparently.
was younger, I felt like an archaeologist while watching each episode, using background details.
Oh,
to
this
piece
makes me so
together that
happy.
This cartoon about a boy and his magic dog was set
Used to be
not
fun.
just after a nuclear apocalypse, but multiple Armageddons, resulting in
Yeah.
the ultimate hodgepodge of lore to pick through.
When you actually pay
Generally
attention to the
speaking,
lore, man, it
with
gets
every
so
additional
intense.
level of moldering leftovers,
Hey, and
the
Fallout,
setting
let's
will
go.
feel that much more storied. Simply dumping a junkyard worth of scrap upon a setting is not sufficient for effective world.
I was about to say, is that Mad Max?
True moldy perfection requires exploration into how said relics shape the current populace.
This is low-key
The
my
most
favorite, like,
interesting
more
scrap heap worlds
machiney.
often feature completely novel societies that have learned to make use of the discharge of the past. In settings like Fallout and Mad Max, entire cultures exist based on the repair and rediscovery of lost technology.
Yeah,
Scavenger
Brotherhood of
worlds
Steel.
are typically set in Earth's imagined
That's what they're all about.
future, but occasionally fester in more fantastical
Christmas.
settings. Elden Ring could be considered a scrapyard world with how most characters rely on salvaged materials, and the only new
okay.
structures are meager
Just wondering how
hovels
he was gonna
built
tie
atop
into
grander
Elden
ancient
Ring.
foundations. Perhaps the largest scrapyard ever envisioned is the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah,
A
I didn't even
cosmos where
cross that.
seemingly every other
Or that didn't
planet
cross
is
my
a
mind.
landfill of debris from endless
it's
galactic
true.
skirmishes, with
Especially
a
the newer
population
ones.
whose employment seems like 90% scrap rummager.
Yeah.
With Star Wars being a moldy yard
Apparently there's
sale
just
of
one
the
planet, though,
universe helps the setting feel lived
that
in.
everybody goes
the
back to.
original trilogy in particular emphasizing that this is a world filthy with use and reuse, where nearly every piece of technology
love the
feels like it has gone
griminess of
through
it, though,
multiple
man.
retrofits. As is often the case with scrap, the remnants give you a sense of eras that came long before, prior to those eras actually being put to screen, creating an impression
beautiful.
of history even if you have
His words.
no further context.
And I guess what's on the screen.
But while wreckage might convey
Gundam.
backstory to the audience, the characters who inhabit these ruined worlds frequently lack the context.
And
to
Wall-E. Oh my
understand
god, all
the
of these
very
examples,
relics they
man.
Scavenge.
Didn't even
This
cross my
misunderstanding
mind.
trope is most common in stories where there is a significant technological or
You're from the
cultural
last video.
gap between a realm's current inhabitants and the civilizations that preceded them, resulting in mix-ups that are often played for laughs.
What about
Made me
those
laugh.
American deities?
But the profound alienation that can emerge between a society and the defaced
Planet of the
ruins
Apes.
of their
I haven't seen the
forerunners
newer ones.
may also
I
be
really
a
need
source
to.
of tragic false interpretations. The recent Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes films
That is
offer
true.
a surprisingly layered investigation into the dangers of a history disfigured by time. In the setting, there's the obvious dramatic irony of ape societies failing to understand that the structures which dominate the
what
land
knowledge
were built by the
continues to
now diminished
carry
human
on?
population, but also
I guess
a
we
subtler
never know.
misconstruction of the ape's own heritage. The story sees a cult-like clan waging war under the banner of the ancient ape leader of Caesar, turning his doctrine of peaceful
spoilers, man! I didn't know
unity
Caesar
into a
dies.
pretext
I mean,
for
obviously,
zealous
the
conquest.
time-wise.
Masks, take his name. Twist his words.
The story explores how even the most well-intentioned philosophy can become putrefied
Man, you
through
definitely
willful
sell
mistranslation,
what you're talking about.
positing that it is
I'm
not
gonna
just
download a
buildings
game
that
and
rot
watch a
eats
movie
away
now
at,
because of you.
but beliefs. The decomposition of an idea, of a system of principles.
Oh, we're getting
is an
metaphorical in
abstract
this.
concept that moldy world building has the power to make physical. In
Oh,
the
yes.
ever-relevant setting of
Never
Elden
mind, I hate
Ring,
it.
The titular ring
Going
is
back
a
to Elden Ring.
corporeal manifestation of the order of the world. Before the events of the game, that order is literally shattered by a vengeful deity, adding context to the ruined nature of the land.
Makes you think
The
how civilization was
fractured
before he
realms
did
of
it.
Elden Ring are filled with deities.
It's like
similarly
Noah in the
willing
Ark,
to
you know, God
deface their
floods the
beliefs
earth.
and their own bodies in exchange for greater power. A prideful demigod grafts on additional appendages.
Again,
a
I
divine dragon
didn't
forges
think
a
about
sword
that.
from seemingly his
All
own
the bad
innards.
guys are
A titan
essentially what he's
rips off
talking
your
about.
leg without hesitation as
Yeah.
an offering to the divine. Nothing, it seems, is so precious that it can't be sacrificed for the chance at grasping additional strength.
I love that. I hate
And
it.
as the
I hate
gods
that. I love
rot
it.
physically and mentally, so too do the larger belief systems of the world. Most places of worship left abandoned and in disrepair, the statues of the
God,
divine
dude.
slowly corroding alongside
Again, it's
their
stuff I never
philosophies.
thought about.
In this land of forsaken principles, some monuments even
about to say, is that
depict
Skyrim?
deities so forgotten in the present they're
My mic's
never
kinda
mentioned
blocking.
anywhere
Oh, it's
else
not
in
even
the
saying
game.
anything.
Did these gods too deserve to rot, or was something vital lost when their names were last spoken aloud? There is
That's what I talked about in the last video, man. You technically died twice.
That clearly held great meaning in a past age. The Lord of the Rings is filled with such
Again,
mythos,
another
some
great
of which are
example.
still revered,
Never
but
actually
just as
seen
many
them.
have crumbled away into
But I know
total
of them.
obscurity. Tolkien famously wrote his mythos as if he were translating an imperfect text, and would sometimes intentionally leave out details to suggest time had eroded the records.
That's how you do it,
Lord
man.
of the Rings is deeply mournful
Perfect storytelling.
of the idea of a history or culture becoming lost, though it simultaneously offers hope that such losses can be recovered. The
Flowers is a good
deterioration of
example.
the world in Elden Ring does not seem so fixable, however.
Yeah.
There is something irrevocably funerary about
Especially the more
setting.
deep
the
you
entire
go.
realm like a single
Dungeons and
mass
stuff.
grave, with the tombstones already too
I was getting
weathered
there.
to know to whom to offer condolences. It is a world stripped of its past,
Just nameless.
the only records existing in eulogies from unreliable narrators. Perhaps the best surviving
And they could
ruins
twist
border
it
the
any
city
way
of
they
Leyndell,
see
the
fit.
walls outside the capital still standing proudly.
That's why I think I said in the
Even
last
these
one, but I have a
relatively
problem with the
intact
Bible because of
structures
that.
appear to be in the
Technically,
early
it's
stages of
human-made.
compost. No empire is so grand that it lasts for eternity.
Very true.
Themes of a kingdom succumbing to rot are
Rome is a great
unavoidable
example.
in any sufficiently moldy setting. All those cool-looking ruins have to come from somewhere.
Very
But what
cool.
the corpse of an
Hey,
empire
back to-
represents
almost
in
said
narrative
Link,
varies
Zelda.
significantly.
I was
In
technically
Zelda
right.
Breath of the Wild and its sequel, the destruction of the Kingdom of Hyrule is presented as an unambiguous negative. This was a nation
I know
of
that was in the last
gentleness
one, but
and
good God.
prosperity, and the ruins that remain are, well, much has already been written about how haunting they feel. Each battlefield of bad memory the land has been unable to fully forget. Scars from a similar battlefield mark a region outside Leyndell's borders, but the emotions of the scenery are less clear-cut. It is evident from the crack on the wall that here an army tried
I was
and
expecting more
failed
decay from the
to
wall.
overtake the city, but what is less evident is why an army marched upon this realm. If
That's
the
true.
cause
It's like
was
we don't
just
know
or
why.
unjust,
And for me,
in
that's
a way, it
perfect. It's like you
scarcely
shouldn't tell the
matters, because
audience.
though the forces
Not
were
everything, at
repelled,
least.
the city seems to
I
have
hated that
fallen to
place.
ruin regardless. All across Elden Ring, one can find ruined battlements presented without any straightforward connotation, beyond perhaps the simplest one, that it is the birthright of any empire to die. Even
Oh.
Zelda acknowledges
The
this.
birth of
Old
death.
Hyrule
I
is
love
far
that.
From the only
Oh,
kingdom
there's the
whose
sad
wreckage
statue
is
again.
strewn about the land. The entire realm a cemetery of cultures that must have once also been the height of civilization. Indeed, some of the
And now they're
oldest
just like,
ruins are ironically
no
the
people,
most
nothing is
technologically
there
advanced,
anymore.
suggesting that no level of achievement can fully safeguard against decline, and reframing the most recent collapse as just the latest in a long and predictable cycle. Perhaps part of why moldy world building is so consistently resonant
These
is
little
because
title
it
cards you're
reminds
doing,
us
man.
of the
I love the
simple
wording.
truth that nothing is so mighty
Assassin's
it
Creed.
cannot be brought low by time.
That's a
When
good example of
exploring
just
virtual
seeing
ruins, it's
the
impossible,
time
at
jump,
least
you
for
know?
me,
It's
not to
technically
think
you're in the
about
same
how
world.
The people who lived in these empires probably thought their way of life would last forever. A similar feeling creeps in whenever I pass by the giant corpses in the margins of Elden Ring. Each titanic
Some of those I didn't
cadaver
even
as
know they were
nameless as the
corpses,
statues of the
or even
South,
statues. I thought they were
barren
just
and
rocks until you
forgotten
take a
despite
second
their
look, you're like,
obvious
"Ugh."
former might. Did these giants too believe themselves to be unconquerable before the rot set in? Impossibly vast powerhouses falling to ruin is an aspect of moldy world building prevalent across genres. In science fiction, it most
I was about to say,
commonly
these
appears in the
examples are
form of
freaking
immense
ridiculous, man.
superstructures,
Just of
like
how many there
festering
are.
after the empire that built them inevitably collapsed from their hubris. This trope is a tried and true method for sci-fi world building, adding a little moldy sauce to the lore broth, with the most famous examples
Don't eat
likely
it.
coming from the game series Halo
That sounds so
and Mass
unappealing,
Effect.
but in this
both
context, I
cases,
love it.
humans seek to use the megastructures left behind by
Mass
a collapsed
Effect.
Forerunner species for their own devices,
Got them Reapers.
hoping to build their futures
And
on the
arguably the
carcasses
worst
of the
ending ever in a
past
trilogy.
familiar, digestive fashion. As you might imagine, how good an idea this turns out to be varies greatly, with the same ego that ended the previous empire often flaring up when the new upstarts try to appropriate the ancient power. Even the mightiest foundations, these stories suggest, can prove too
My brain
rotted
keeps
to
going back to
construct something
Rome, man.
novel
It's like we
upon.
have real examples of these.
At what point is a skeleton too decayed, too putrid at its core to be salvaged?
Where you going
no
with,
matter
buddy?
its former grandeur. Inside EldenRing's capital of Lanedale, the greatest structures
said it before,
of the
man, I
entire
hate that
game
place.
rise to pierce the heavens, and yet
I have
the
this thing with like
city feels
abandoned
sick in a
places,
way
you
that
know, and
not
there's,
even
I'm
rot
expecting
could
people, but the only
reclaim.
people I
The
see are
layered
just
architecture
monsters,
of the
essentially.
capital recalls Minas Tirith of Middle-earth, a city whose foundations similarly feel like they're rotting out from under it.
Oh,
with
same
the
vibe.
latest generations of rulers said to care more about building up their legacy than if the city can withstand the weight. Langdale similarly bears the burden of
Dude,
the unfathomably
freaking
titanic
narration.
Erd tree, a golden life form that can be seen from all corners of the land, a
I got to touch
physical
it.
manifestation of the cosmic laws that supposedly binds the world together, and yet the roots
Supposedly.
of the Erd tree are ravenous, its tendrils choking the very heart of the city
Oh,
and carving
man.
out deep catacombs where corpses rot
It's like,
and monsters
in order
fester.
to have
It's a
life,
slight
you have to have
spoiler
death
say,
somewhere
although
else.
the lore of Elden
Like I say, you
Ring
know,
is
the
frankly
endless
so
cycle.
impenetrable that it's hard to spoil any of it, but the tree itself might in fact be a kind of cosmic parasite, draining life from the
Oh.
capital and the lands beyond.
Oh, hi,
while
I didn't see
offering
the
nothing
bird.
in return. Every city, like every land, is a hierarchy of layers, and if the bottom becomes too
That's
corroded
very
while
true.
the top continues to grow,
All
the
of it will
entire
just
structure
freaking
will come
Jenga.
crashing down. You can feel the rotting base of a city preparing to buckle under the mass of its topside from the very first episode of the series Arcane. An impeccable example of sociological world-building, Arcane presents a nation split between the
I love
wealthy
that art
and
style.
bloated city of Piltover and
Every
the
single one of this
festering
art
damp
styles
of
that
the
he's
impoverished
had
undercity.
examples of, man.
Everywhere you look, there is evidence these layers are not stable, that the entire house of cards is about to come crashing down. A metropolis built too
But it's
tall
so
atop
perfect
too
for the
meager an
storytelling,
edifice
man.
is hardly an unfamiliar idea, both in fiction and also outside of it.
Hey.
In moldy world building in particular, cities
Like I
made
said,
of
man, we have
multiple mildewing layers
lot of
are a
examples of these just
foundational trope,
outside.
almost as common as white birds. Because I'm serious, there are always white birds in these settings.
That's
I know they're
very true.
Generally used for scale, but it's a legit
I think they're
trend
supposed
that
to be
if you
like
see white
the
birds,
purity
they're in for
leaving
some
the
premium
place. That's how I
moldiness.
took it anyway.
Birds or no birds.
I noticed
there
that
is
too.
something
There's so many just
uncomfortably
white
familiar
birds.
about decomposing cities, the municipal deterioration recalling any number of real-world spaces and decline.
Perfect example of the real world
Because
stuff I was
here's
talking
the
about.
thing. Planet Earth's world building is,
We're getting
in
all subject
general,
about it. Let's go.
extremely moldy. Think of how many actual
I shouldn't
cities
praise
are
it too
built
much.
atop
It's
more
quite
ancient
sad.
foundations, or still have standing ruins you can see to this day.
I want to
Earth is
visit
a
some of that
setting
stuff, man.
absolutely riddled with eroding
Especially
evidence of
Italy.
ages
Like their
past.
architecture,
I think that's
man.
part of why moldy world building makes a setting feel more detailed and realistic. Because
That's
it
very
is
true. I didn't think
realistic.
about that.
We don't always think about our own planet this way, but Earth's
Like, I'm only an
history is
hour away from the
filled with
Alamo,
kinds
dude,
of
and I,
epic
like, don't
kingdoms
even
and
think twice
empires
about it.
that would not feel out of
quite
place in
sad.
works of fantasy, with cultures that are unfamiliar
Odyssey.
to us that we too have tried to piece together from the imposing remains of their crumbling megastructures. Earth has even gone through its share of semi-apocalypses.
Yeah.
The Bronze
Like I
Age
mentioned, man,
collapse,
Noah
the
and
Indus
the
Valley decline.
Earth flooding.
We are not on the first draft of human civilization. Technology has been lost and rediscovered as well. In much the same way that in Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire, advanced metalworking has been forgotten and the only new Valerian steel swords must be melted down from pre-existing blades.
I did not know
Throughout Earth's
that.
history, steel sword making techniques have been forgotten and reintuited multiple times. Earth's Greek fire is an even more remarkable piece of technology lost to time, an ancient chemical flame that could supposedly still burn even when exposed to water.
My
Martin's world
God,
has
man.
its own equivalent in wildfire.
Well, that should be
and
oil?
just like in our reality, all records
blubber,
of how
I
to
guess,
make the chemical
depending on what
mixture
time
eventually
period.
mildewed away, which sounds too fantastical to be true, but genuinely, we're still not entirely sure how to make Greek fire after centuries of trying. Earth itself really is
just
the
lost to
preeminent
time, man.
example of moldy world building, an endless cycle of rot. and
No one
rebirth.
can escape time.
So in a way, it should be no
That might be
wonder
the only
like
constant.
barnacles and rust, grime and weathering are shortcuts to a
There's a lot of
believable
rust here.
setting. Why the easiest way to make a fictional map look more genuine is to add a tasteful bit of wrinkling. Imperfections are the key to physicality.
100%.
That's why you see people, and I'm
Nothing is
including
perfect
myself
in
in
real
this,
life, so
use
why would it be
much
in fiction,
frame
right?
and glitch effects in their videos, trying to emulate
Analog
the
horror.
authentic flaws of physical media formats. I think there's
Yes.
at least a broad connection.
And it
between
cost
moldy
more to,
world
like,
building and
mimic
physical
stuff
media.
that was
Not
very
just
simple in the
how
past.
Material storage models can mildew, but if you think of the real maps at the start of fantasy novels or material guidebooks that used to come with games, giving your audience something
Morrowind or
corporeal and
Skyrim or
capable
something,
of
they have the map and
weathering
all
is
that.
like putting a fragment of your setting in their hands. The indie game Tunic is in
Ooh,
a way all
Tunic.
about this connection. Throughout
it's
the game's
adorable.
world, there are the layers of ruins upon ruins
art style's
that one would
beautiful.
expect from any moldy world worth its salt. But there are also pages of a faux instructional guidebook for you to collect.
Oh, I
This
love
strategy
that.
guide comes marked with all the little signs of age you'd expect from such a booklet,
What?
with various sections including pen doodles or notes written into the margins.
Oh,
by
man,
an
that reminds me of
imagined
that,
player. And I know
I forgot what it was called, but
guides with
it's Five Nights at
scribbles
Freddy's
like
book.
these. Such
Like
marks are
security log or
proof of
something like that?
history in the same way a piece
love
of
stuff
wreckage
like
is
that,
a
man.
testimony that someone has been here before. How much comfort one can find in the records of moldiness ultimately comes down to individual philosophy. There is a portion of me that is uneasy when I see the wreckage of civilizations
That's
past,
true.
be they real or virtual.
I have, like,
and
two
know they were
sides of me
once
every
as
time I see it.
uneroded by
I'm in
time
awe,
as
but
we
then
are
I'm
now.
like, I
But there's
ponder
also a
the
portion
people
of
that
me
have
that is
actually
comforted
lived in
to
it.
see evidence
And that
of
makes me
those
sad.
that have walked before me, that the world has endured long before this sliver of time and will continue long after. A moldy setting is a
Hey.
realistic one,
Back
a
to the robot.
storied one,
I need to watch
a
that movie.
living one. Maybe the past is not reclaimable. Maybe what is rotted has rotted for good. But even if something thoroughly digested cannot be regurgitated, it can still feed the
Again, your
growth of
wording,
something
man.
new. There is beauty
Perfect.
in decomposition, waiting to be dug up.
Like the sandwich.
That's gross. I don't really know what I was expecting.
Honestly.
There's one massive unanswered question.
Oh, that's
that making
beautiful.
this
Had a
video
sense of
left me
realism
with.
to it.
How many of these settings actually qualify as post-apocalyptic? Is
That's a great
Fallout
question.
Post-apocalyptic? Is Breath of the Wild post-apocalyptic? Is Lord of the Rings post-apocalyptic? In all cases,
Good question.
it's not a straightforward answer, because, as I discovered,
Don't
there's
people have to
another
get wiped in
stage that
order for it
comes
to be
after what we
apocalyptic?
traditionally think of the post-apocalypse. I ended up having so much to say on this topic that I couldn't fit it into the conclusion of this video. So instead,
Interesting.
I made an entire second video
Oh,
where
let's
I dived
go.
deep into worlds like Akapura Games' Rain World and
When you get so
Ghibli's
passionate
Castle in
about
the
something,
Sky,
man,
both of which
by all
originally
means,
played a
keep
much
talking
larger
about
role
it.
in this essay, but ultimately didn't fit and deserved their own dedicated video. You can watch this other video right now exclusively on Nebula. That's not all though, because Nebula
What is
isn't
Nebula?
just the place to watch my videos early and ad-free. It's the best place to watch hundreds of other
Hey,
creators and more.
I've
including
never
some
heard of this
really
before.
incredible
I don't think I've ever heard of
productions
these
that are
people
showing
before.
how Nebula
Dracula's
is pushing the
ex-girlfriend.
industry forward. Tom
Hey,
Nicholas's
that's Flagpole
Boomers,
Cinema. I
a
love that
2-hour
song.
documentary on the legacy of baby boomers just dropped.
Okay.
Nebula is a
Oh my God,
remarkable
the X-Men.
platform, enabling creators like myself to bring you consistent, high
Dude, you already sold me. You could stop.
while offering a wide range of
Showing me
exclusive
everything I
content
love.
That's on a whole other level from what we could make on our own.
I started with not
sign
knowing
up for
anything to
Nebula
knowing all of
today
it.
At just $3 a month on the
That's
yearly
not
plan
bad.
at
Why is it 3 though? I see 3 everywhere.
nebula.tv/Curious Archive. Plus, every Nebula subscriber gets
It's only
guest
36
access to
bucks
share
annually?
everything on Nebula
That's
with friends
very
and family for a
cheap.
week and no payment info required to redeem. That's
Love that.
nebula.tv/Curious Archive to check out all my exclusive videos and so
100%.
much more.
A sneaky little ad in there,
As
but by all
always,
means, that was
thanks for
beautiful.
watching. If
Thank you
enjoyed
for
this
making,
entry,
man.
please lend your
Jesus.
support by
Every
liking,
single
subscribing,
video I
and
watch
hitting
of
the
yours,
notification
man.
icon to stay up to date on all things curious. See you in the next
You know I
video.
do. God, dude, every single subject, every topic, every video, he knocks it out of the park. Alright, man, so like I just stated, man, just another banger of his. Like every single video essays, like not the ones talking about books or like stuff like that, but like just his video essays are to die for, man. They are so freaking beautiful. And like the way, I know I might repeat a lot of stuff that I said in the God Dies video, but like just the way he does it, man. It's like stuff that I'm familiar with, stuff that I'm not familiar with. He like picks and pulls certain types of subjects to like talk about, like just mold, for example. It's like, long story short, this was about mold, but then you dig just a tiny bit deeper and you're like, no, this video is so much more than just talking about moldy cities and stuff like that. It's talking about like just everything that coexists with that, like the people that used to be there and like they may not be there anymore, like the way kind of like the Planet of the Apes, where it was like the narrative could shift and change to where they have no idea where they even came from. Like it's so freaking wacky and it boggles my brain in the best of ways, man. Every single time I watch one of his stuff, it's just like the same, like just I get so bubbly and giddy about it, man. It's just, it really boggles my brain, like I said, but like the best of ways. I love it so freaking much. So I'm gonna stop it here because I'm literally just rambling at this point because like I can't really piece together my thoughts, but man, this is beautiful. This is beyond beautiful. And like, if you don't check out the original channel, man, you definitely should. But this stuff is just phenomenal, man. I cannot gush it enough. Like, it's just so freaking awesome. So I promised I'm gonna stop, I swear. But thank you everybody so much for watching. Leave a like down below, subscribe, ring the bell, become a member. You get videos a day early, and check out the merch. So with that said, I have been Master Zero. Y'all guys have been fantastic, and I'll see y'all in the next episode. Later days.